Hi, my name is Danielle, and this is my teaching philosophy. With the help of the social studies curriculum, I will identify my overall philosophy by looking at grades 1 and 2 through the peoples and environment strand. The overall expectation B1 identifies the local communities in grade 1 and the global communities in grade 2. This will be my basis throughout the entire video. In the social studies curriculum, teachers are responsible for using appropriate and effective instructional strategies to help students achieve the expectations. It is important that teachers create an environment that will foster a sense of community where all students feel included and appreciated and where their perspectives are treated with respect. As a future educator, it is important to identify ways that you aim to incorporate lessons within your classroom in order to align with your values and your teaching philosophy. This video will give you a brief snippet into my ideas of creating and fostering an inclusive inquiry-based social studies classroom. With that being said, it's important to recognize the student's role in an inquiry-based classroom. Students will use the components of an inquiry process to investigate and communicate their feelings about significant events, developments, and issues discussed inside and outside the classroom. By applying the inquiry process, students develop their skills that they need in order to think critically, solve problems, to make informed judgments, and communicate their ideas. The first important consideration when planning for an inquiry-based classroom is the layout and the overall design of the environment. We now know how inquiry-centered environments are different from teacher-centered environments. Students ask more questions, show interest and imagination, engage in self-paced investigation, work collaboratively, and are more likely to take risks in their learning. This layout promotes inquiry as students' desks are grouped into small bunches where they can collaborate with others regardless of their grade. But it's also important to understand how it offers the opportunity to meet in a large group at the front of the class. The entire class encourages flexibility as well as with the seating, as it gives students autonomy of their choices and their learning. Here are some pictures of where I've gathered information from. In the classroom, it is also evident that there is a library space where students can go to if they need a break, and these resources will also be used in the classroom. The computer area will provide the students and the teacher with the digital resources that they can easily be accessed by everyone. It is also important to note that since the classroom promotes flexible seating, students will most likely need to write on a clipboard or use chart paper when engaging in a small group. These will be resources around the classroom for students to access at all times. In a previous placement of mine, in a grade 2 classroom, the teacher had her room lights on a dimmer. It was really interesting for me to see, and I understood the value of the different types of lighting in a classroom. I could tell that the students were able to focus longer and that they weren't burnt out by the end of the day. Transitions also seemed easier as the environments that they were coming into weren't as harsh. I aim to incorporate this overall style and functionality in my future classroom. With that, I would also like to share a brief description of a cumulative task for my grade 1s and 2s. For grade 1, the scenario could be, there's a new student in your school. To help them learn about your community, you will fill out a chart naming the buildings in your community. You will also draw a map that includes building landmarks and other physical features to help the new student find their way around their space. Overall, the task will be students will draw a map of their local community using the school as its center. They will also be able to use symbols and identify physical features such as buildings, roads, and parks. Some learning goals that are evident throughout this lesson are that students will be able to locate and distinguishing features of their community, such as buildings, parks, and roads, as well as use their own symbols on a map to identify these landmarks in their community. This also relates to the overall expectation 3, where students will be able to describe significant aspects of their community with reference to different areas, services, and natural and built features, demonstrating an understanding of some basic ways of describing location and measuring distance. Here's an example of a student whereby they included symbols and their meaning and represented them in their local community. Now for the grade 2s, students can do a similar task, but instead they can draw a map comparing two communities. One country must be Canada and the other country could be a country of their choice. They will find the information by doing research and using Google Maps to draw an aerial street view. This could also be something that the grade 1s incorporate into their lesson, but further with the grade 2s, they can use different resources within the classroom. Now, this relates to some of the learning goals found, where students will be able to identify similarities and differences between their community and communities in other parts of the world, as well as the use of symbols, colors, and directions on a map of Canada and other countries. This connects to the overall expectation 1, where students are able to describe some similarities and differences in the ways in which people and communities in different parts of the world meet their needs and have adapted to the location, climate, and physical features of their regions. It also connects to the expectation 3, where students are able to identify and locate various physical features and selected communities around the world and describe some aspect of people's ways of life in those communities. By comparing and identifying key aspects of their community and those of different countries, students are learning to become responsible, active citizens within their diverse communities to which they belong, as well as becoming critically thoughtful and informed citizens who value an inclusive society and world. This directly relates to the vision of the social studies curriculum. When looking at the citizenship education framework from the curriculum, it is evident that students are developing their sense of identity as they are developing their local and global connectedness while considering others' perspectives. Now we will discuss how we can integrate the social studies unit into different subjects. Looking at the mathematics curriculum, this social studies unit can be integrated into a lesson on geometry and measurement, as they can focus on the shape, location, and movement of shapes by applying geometric properties and spatial relationships to navigate the world around them. It's important with this activity that students consider the symmetry, distance, size, and the relationship of the objects. Now looking at the language curriculum, we can see that the letter writing is introduced at this age group. We might be able to frame the unit differently by sharing with the students that they have just actually received a letter from a friend who went on a holiday in a different country. They will then, with the use of the letter, they will then describe and create a map comparing both countries from what their friend had shared through their letter. Overall, the goals of the social studies curriculum are for students to develop an understanding of the diversity within local, national, and global communities, both past and present, and develop the knowledge, understanding, and skills that lay the foundation for the future studies in geography, history, economics, law, and politics. As their future educator, I aim to foster these skills and learning opportunities in my future classroom.